Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we are going to be delving into Keon Coleman, specifically his usage, advanced stats, and then break down what we see from him on film. As a rookie, it was said that he was going to be deployed as a vertical X in the offense. I personally told everybody to avoid drafting him for that reason because I just didn't think that the skills that he has, and he does have serious skills, are not really best suited for this role in the offense. Typically, you want to be very good against zone coverage, you want to have deep speed, and you want to be very good against press coverage if you're going to be an isolated X receiver on the line of scrimmage. Coming out of college, Keon Coleman just really didn't have any of those skills, or at least that they were below average. And so I thought that his fit would have been much better as a slot receiver because you could have some serious size advantage against a slot cornerback. Speed advantage against middle linebackers over the middle of the field too. So I thought that he wasn't really used to maximize his talents. Well, we're going to see if they have potentially kept him in that same role, switched around his usage a little bit, see as to why he might not be producing particularly well for his own team, but especially for us in fantasy. We're going to take a look at all of these factors, put them together, and then come to a conclusion as to what's going on with Keon Coleman. And so first of all, we're going to take a look at his size and his athleticism in general. So standing at 6'3", 213 pounds, that build itself might lend you to believe that he is an X wide receiver. And I think that's what the Bills thought, apparently, is big, has some size, we'll throw him outside. Now, they did trade out of the first round to select him at the top of the second. I highly suspect it was for salary cap and contractual reasons. Obviously, you pay second rounders less than you do first rounders. There isn't the fifth-year option either. So he was selected once again at the top of the second round. He's currently 22.5 years old, so just slightly under 22 and a half. Now, when we talk about his athleticism, this is one of the things that prior to last season, I was really warning people about is his 4.6 140-yard dash is 27th percentile. Now, I don't typically care so much about your specific number in terms of the 40-yard dash when you're running without pads on. It's less helpful than real, GPS tracking speed, right? For instance, in the NFL, running with pads on is different than running in a straight line without pads. But I think this really is that the lack of deep speed and ability to win vertically deep is shown here in this number. But because he is 6'3", 213 pounds, that still gives him a 63rd percentile height and weight adjusted speed score at 96.9. And then his burst score, which is vertical and broad jump put together, is 82nd percentile at 128.1. He didn't do the agility drills, I think for good reason. He's not the most agile guy, but once again, he's really big. So that's pretty fair, to be honest. But his catch radius is also 44th percentile. So on the surface, if you just looked at the size and weight, you might think, oh, that makes complete sense. Just throw him out as a vertical X. But once again, you generally need to be good against zone coverage, have deep speed, and especially need to be able to win against press man coverage. And so let's break down his usage. So I took a look at wide receivers with at least 40 or more targets. That was a sample size of 54 wide receivers here. Through week 10, he's run 252 routes, which is 93.7% of the team routes. That's a solid route participation. He's definitely been on the field a significant amount of the time. Now, his deployment. It seems as though they've learned nothing. So his slot snap percentage of 16.4 is very low, and his 83.6 out wide percentage is very high. He is a boundary wide receiver, and he is being asked to be the vertical X wide receiver in this offense. You win deep. At least that's what they are looking for him to do. But let's look at how effective this has been. His yards per out run of 1.31 is tied for 47th. That is very, very poor. His PFF receiving grade, which is very subjective, you may or may not value that. I don't value it tremendously, but I wanted it as a data point of 65.6 is 45th in the sample size, suggesting that he isn't playing particularly well in the role in which they are deploying him currently. His yak per reception of 1.7 is dead last, but to be fair to him, in the role in which they're deploying him, he's a vertical jump ball X wide receiver. That's not really conducive to getting a lot of yards after catch, so I do want to be very fair to him in that regard. His missed tackles force is the same thing. He only has one that's tied for 51st. Once again, I think that's more of a role thing than his lack of ability to do something after the catch. I think for his size, he's actually pretty solid after the catch. Now, his contested catch percentage of 36%, 4 out of 11, that's also not a very good number. We'll get into some film with him in contested catch situations and deduce whether we think that it's a him problem, a Josh Allen problem, or potentially just something else. So we'll see about that when the film comes into play here. Now, in terms of his targets and targets per game, he's had 50 total targets. That's 5.5 per game. He's played 9 games so far. Not a particularly great number, but also the vertical X role doesn't really lend itself generally to a ton of target volume unless you are really thinking that you can win vertically outside. But typically that's a lesser volume type of a role in an offense. His receptions of 32 and 3.5 per game isn't particularly great, but that kind of goes hand in hand with the vertical X role. It's a low volume, high variance position in terms of production from week to week. His yards of 330 and 36.7 per game isn't particularly great. And he has 3 touchdowns in 9 games so far, so that's 0.33 repeating per game. Overall, these stats are telling us that he is being deployed as a boundary wide receiver, and the production just really hasn't been great so far. That's at least what we can deduce from these stats right now. Now, taking a look at some more advanced stats, his 410 air yards are 54th among wide receivers, and his 24.2% air yard share is 49th. Those are not particularly impressive. Now, his ADOT, you might be questioning, how does he have a 10.0 ADOT, average distance of target, average depth of target, which is 61st? That might make it sound like he's not being deployed deep at all. So here's where it helps to understand the context of that. That's when he's actually being targeted. He is being targeted on quite a few little curl routes or short back shoulder fades, but he's running quite a few 9 routes, for instance, where he's just not being targeted on the play because he's not open, right? So that number can be deceiving and could lead you to believe he's receiving a ton of short game usage, which isn't really the case. He's getting targeted a lot more when he is running those routes, but that might help you understand that number a little bit more. Now, the target separation of 1.24 is 77th among wide receivers. He's not really a natural, route you up type of separator. He doesn't really have a tremendous amount of burst off the line. It's fine, especially for somebody his size, but the deep speed just is not there. And once again, he doesn't really have that lateral agility in his route running to route you up per se. So he's just also with running a lot of those routes down the field, you're just not going to have as much separation for the most part, no matter who you are at wide receiver. That's going to be a consistent thing. I'm looking at his dominator rating. That's his market share of the team's total yards and touchdowns on offense. His 15.2% is 57th. That's just not a particularly great number. It indicates that he is not a big part of this offense in terms of the actual realized production. In terms of his deep targets, his 6 rank 49th. His 4 red zone targets rank 55th. So not really getting a ton of deep targets despite running deep routes. And his red zone targets are minuscule for 9 games played so far. He only has 2 designed targets and 32 first read targets in the play as well. Now, the first read targets stat is interesting. I think that with some concepts, they're generally taught for the quarterback to read them out because, they would be timing based and hitch based. So, but I do think that could be somewhat subjective because sometimes, depending on whatever the play call is, sometimes coaches have you read it out a little bit differently. In terms of his first downs per route run, his .104 ranks 20th. That's actually not a terrible number. They have a different yards per route run measure for him of 1.47, but that's still 62nd. That's still not a very good number. And formation adjusted yards per route run of 1.12, which is 61st. And so what can we deduce from these stats here from Player Profiler and previously from PFF? Well, they're telling us that the way he's being deployed is not conducive to production, really. But what does the film say? Let's get into that. And I want to give a special shout out to my Patreon members. Thank you to Big Hunt, SP, Mage Jack, Infamy MTG, AOYOB, and The Dawn. Without your support, this would not be possible. As you're probably well aware if you've been watching my videos for a while, I cannot get monetized because of the film breakdowns I do and even just the little videos I have where I have clips of plays in them. They get demonetized every single time, making it, therefore, impossible to collect any revenue. So, obviously, your support is greatly appreciated. And if you are so inclined to become a member, the perks would be you will get access to a private Discord where we have both a real life and fantasy football chat, as well as a voice chat if you just don't want to have to type a bunch of stuff. I'll also give you detailed roster breakdowns and roster reviews where we talk about the strengths and weaknesses of your team. Then we kind of break it down further by looking into the scoring settings themselves and the starting lineup requirements to help you build the best team to help you dominate for years to come. In both Dynasty and then in Redraft, obviously, I'd help you with a good solid game plan, especially if you know where you're drafting from. Then also give you detailed trade advice based on your specific league settings to help you dominate. Also give you access to private live streams and the ability to not only see videos at least one day early, but also the ability to suggest videos that you would like to be created. So if you would like to support the channel, I would really appreciate it. If not, just please like and subscribe. Let's get back to the video. Looking at Keon Coleman's first rep I'm going to show you, he is lined up out wide at the top. It's going to be a wide receiver screen. So you're going to get your receiver out there to block, and you're going to pull 3 linemen here. You're also going to have Shakir on a screen as well, so Josh Allen could theoretically choose either side he wants, and then you're going to get 2 linemen pulling out. You're going to get your tight end and your wide receiver. As far as the Ravens are concerned, they're going to be in a cover 4. So you're going to have your 4 deep quarter defenders, and then you're going to have your underneath coverage as well. So on this play, it should be relatively successful. The blocking wasn't stupendous by any means, but at the same time, this is an example of Keon Coleman just not catching a completely fine, adequate pass. It's not the perfect ball placement, but there's just no excuse. It's slightly behind him, sure. I understand ball placement. It's Josh Allen. You would expect basically perfection, right? But, you know, for one of your biggest strengths coming out to be your hands, this is just inexcusable, and it really just does not matter. Any wide receivers coach is going to tell you that you have to catch this football. And so I personally think that they are deploying him incorrectly at times. But it's things like this that should just be gimmies for any wide receiver in the entire NFL. There is just no excuse for dropping a screen pass like this. On the second rep I'm going to show you for Keon, he's right here at the top of your screen. He's going to be running a crosser. You're going to get a crosser from Shakir as well. At the bottom, you're going to get an out and up. And then from the backfield, you're just going to get a route out to the flat. As far as the Ravens, they're going to be in cover 1 man, so you're going to get man coverage throughout. And then you're going to have a robber right here and a deep middle field safety here. And so on this route, I want you to pay attention to the lack of separation created by Keon Coleman, but at the same time, him using his smarts to create a little bit of forced separation at the very end of the route. So when I say no separation, I mean throughout basically the entirety of the route, but then using physicality and intelligence to still win. So he's going to be at the top. And so as you can see, this cornerback is going to be in his hip pocket basically the entire route up until the very end. There's just really not very much separation. Josh Allen, because of the pass rush, is going to have to scramble outside to the left here. He's looking down the field. So what Keon's going to do is he's going to head upfield, as you should in scramble drill. He's going to make contact with the cornerback to push off a little bit, then work back down towards the sideline to create just the littlest bit of separation, which is smart. And then he's going to go down to the ground to corral the football. So good hands as well. So throughout 2 reps we've seen so far, a mixture of good and bad hands. On this route, not a ton of separation until the very end when he, created a little bit with physicality, and then to his credit, did work with Josh Allen towards the sideline and was able to get down there and corral the football. So overall, a mixture of good and bad, but at the very least, you can definitely tell he's a smart football player. All right, so let's take a look at this rep here. Keon Coleman is going to be lined up right here. This is what I believe to be an intended cross screen that was shut down, and then Josh Allen had to do Josh Allen things. And Keon Coleman, to his credit, once again, works with Josh Allen in scramble drill and ends up catching a pass that I don't believe was intended for him. So first of all, you're going to get this receiver going in orbit motion across the field back to the backfield, and he's going to slip out to the side here. This is to draw the Ravens defense this direction. Then you're going to get what was intended, I believe, to be a cross screen You're going to get a couple linemen pulling, but that just does not work out because an edge rusher here is going to figure out what's happening and not allow that. You're going to have Kincaid going over the middle and stopping. Then you're going to get a shallow cross from Keon Coleman that he's eventually going to understand. Just the play is completely screwed, and so he's just going to have to work with Josh Allen in scramble drill, which he will do successfully. Then this receiver is going to initially block and then try to figure out how to get open once the screen was shut down. As far as the Ravens, they're going to be in a cover 4. And so you'll have your 4 deep defenders. They're going to have a couple of interior linemen drop back as well. So pay attention to his work in scramble drill here when the play does not work. And so you're going to get the orbit motion by this wide receiver. Now, this edge defender is going to figure out that there's a cross screen coming, and he's just going to lock up the running back. That's not happening. So then Josh Allen has to do Josh Allen things and figure out, well, gee, what am I going to do here? So at this point, Keon Coleman, this is not going to be successful for him. There are multiple players on this side of the field, so he's going to have to figure out what he's going to do. So he's going to try, first of all, to work towards the middle of the field, towards the opening in the back. Josh Allen isn't happening to look at him and able to get the ball to him at this current moment in time. So Keon's going to flip to the sideline as he sees Josh Allen rush to the right here. Now, Allen is going to throw a pass that I believe could have been for Kincaid. Potentially not, though. It is Josh Allen. But nonetheless, that's a remarkable ability to track the football, work with him in scramble drill, and come up with a touchdown here. Like I said, even if this pass was not intended for him, a remarkable awareness, situational awareness to work with Josh Allen in the scramble drill and get the job done. Good hands, too. And so now we've seen 2 plays in the exact same game where Keon Coleman knows exactly what to do in scramble drill, and we do see a connection with Josh Allen in the scramble drill. Taking a look at the next play I'm going to show you here. First of all, we're going to get heavy play action to the left. Then James Cook is going to roll out into the flat. You're going to get a deep curl by Keon Coleman, and then you're going to get a sit over the middle by Kincaid. They're going to be in 13 personnel, so heavy run package, which is why I think the play action is going to be so successful here. As far as the Jets, they're going to be in a traditional cover 4, so you're going to have your 4 deep quarter defenders. You'll have your underneath coverage as well. And so on this play, he being Keon Coleman is going to get off coverage. And so the thing is, he doesn't really have the deep speed. So I'm not really sure. I don't mean this to be disrespectful, but I'm not really sure why they're so terrified of getting beaten deep. It doesn't really make that much sense to me, honestly. But nonetheless, he is going to be successful on this play. And the snap down for a wide receiver of his size is pretty good. It's just, I don't really understand what the initial threat is, to be honest. So as you can see, I mean, he's not remarkably slow, but he's not really a burner. So I'm not sure why they're so terrified of getting beat deep. But at the same time, the stop on this curl is going to be quite impressive, in my opinion. The snap down. And then he's going to get the ball, and he's going to immediately try to turn and swerve and get additional yardage. Now, there were so many Jets defenders there that there's just nothing he was going to be able to do. But props to him for, immediately trying to become a runner. This guy really is a smart football player. And I really like that even though he was facing off coverage, he did try to attack the defender in the sense of trying to run straight into him before stopping his route. And once again, became a ball carrier immediately. So good stuff. Like I said, I don't really know what they were so terrified of in terms of his deep speed, but props to him for playing it correctly, and he really is a smart football player. All right, so a play like this is an example of why I really think he could be better in the slot. So first of all, you're going to get cover 1. I'll draw that out in a minute from the Dolphins here. But what Keon Coleman is going to be running is a back shoulder fade. You're going to get a slot fade concept on this side where you have the slot running a fade. You're going to have your little stop here, and then you're going to have what I believe to be a choice route where this player could go left or right. He is going to read this and go to the right. As far as the defense, once again, they're going to be in a cover one. So you're going to have one deep center field defender here, man coverage throughout. And then you are going to have everyone on this line and both linebackers blitzing here. And so Josh Allen is going to try to get this ball out in a hurry. And it's kind of, he just doesn't have a tremendous get off the line of scrimmage. He isn't really able to separate himself from the press coverage. And it's just kind of clunky. And then he drops the pass here on the back shoulder. So this is what I'm like. He is a physical specimen of a receiver in terms of his size and his weight. But he just does not have the get off the line. And he's not particularly great against press. So his usage as an X is just so questionable to me. Everyone has the opportunity to get better. He could definitely break out. He can definitely improve. But just, in my vertical X receivers, I want you to have serious deep speed. That's part of why DK Metcalf, Nico Collins, AJ Brown, these guys have the get off the line of scrimmage and ability to beat press that allows them to be successful in this position on the field. So it's not even his fault to a degree. They're asking him to do something that I just don't think he has the physical skill set to do. But let me show you. So once again, it's not crazy. It's not that he's, excessively slow. It's just, I just don't think it's enough to really threaten. And then he's just unable to really separate, kind of clunky, and then drops the football on the back shoulder. I mean, it's good coverage. Don't get me wrong. But this is just another example of what I'm talking about, where I just think they're misusing him and not using him to his strengths. And this was the same thing as last year. They said before the season that he was going to be used as an X. That's one of the biggest reasons I was a proponent of avoiding him in fantasy drafts, because I don't think that's his skill set. And it's fine to not have that skill set. It's just, if they're going to use you in ways that just don't suit your strengths, it's just going to limit your effectiveness. And so we have yet another drop here. Now, here is a rep that I want to be fair to him, as fair as I can possibly be. Here is a rep where he really does a great job against press and does separate initially. So there is maybe the potential for this to work out better than it has so far, but I'm going to explain also why I just think it's somewhat limited. So here he is going to take an outside release. He beats press. It's a nasty win. He does get initial separation. He's going on a go route. You're going to get a crosser here. You're going to get a stop here. And then you're going to get another 9 route on the other side of the field. As far as what the Saints are doing, they're going to be in a cover 1 man. This guy's going to blitz off the edge. You're going to have a linebacker in a hook zone. And then you're going to have your man coverage and then your deep safety here. It is going to end up being an interception. Josh Allen does kind of hang it in the air a little bit too long, in my opinion. He isn't really able to step in the throw, to be fair to him as well, because of the blitz. But this is an example, because I want to be fair to him. This is a great example of a win against press. And so you're going to see, whoop, he's going to get off of him. He's going to get initially about, a yard and a half, maybe 2 yards of separation here. Once again, though, if you see the blitz right here is getting into Josh Allen's face. So, I mean, it just doesn't get a whole bunch into it. But the other thing I want to mention is, you see how Keon the trailing defender is just, the closing speed is just too much for him, and he's getting back into his hip pocket despite a massive win early in the route. Now, I'm not going to blame the interception on him whatsoever. The ball hung up in the air. It was ahead of him. So that has nothing to do with Keon Coleman. But even after a massive win against press and getting initial separation, he just doesn't have the long speed to really keep that separation. Whereas somebody like Brian Thomas, somebody like Nico Collins, they are roasting you if you miss against them on press. It's a wrap if that happens. So props to him, though. He beat the press, clean release, gets initial separation, and really, like I said, Josh Allen just kind of threw it too far ahead of him. It was intercepted. But this is about as good of a rep as I've seen, and I've looked through probably at this point 50 reps of his so far, and selecting clips that I think show something particularly good or bad about his game, and in terms of the position in which they're asking him to play. But yeah, there's definitely hope that he gets better. This was a very encouraging rep. It's just some of these things that I mentioned, like his lack of long speed, I just think limits the potential in the role that they're asking him to play. Now, taking a look at this rep, I actually like this. They have Keon Coleman right here in the slot. I really like where they have him in the formation. Now, this is going to be an incomplete pass, but it shouldn't have been if the ball placement from Josh Allen was better. What you're going to get is they put the running back Ty Johnson outside here, and they're going to motion him inwards to see what, if as to whether they're in a true cover 1 or potentially a cover 3, right? Then you're going to get a little bench concept where you get the corner, and then you're going to get a little out route here, and then you're going to get an out from Kincaid. You're going to get a slot fade from Coleman, and then you're going to get a little stop right here. They are going to be in cover 1 man, so you're going to have your man coverage throughout. So this cornerback is going to be on Coleman, and then you're going to have your deep center field safety here. And so on this play, he is going to get a free release because he's in the slot. Now, I like the initial get off the line. Once again, as I've said a billion times already, it's not remarkably burner fast, but it allows him to not have to face the press coverage to begin with. Then what he's going to do is he's going to push vertically a little bit with some physicality, and it's going to theoretically set up the back shoulder. Now, the problem is the ball was, put in the middle. So once again, not the best ball placement from Josh Allen. It's fine. He's an elite quarterback. It happens. Everybody understands that. But I also like that they put him initially in the backfield so that it didn't know where he was going to end up lining up as well. I really like that. And once again, it allows him to get the free release off the line of scrimmage. He isn't the best against press coverage, even though I did show you a dominant win. So at the very least, he does appear to have been working on it, which is all you can ask him to do. And he does set it up well. It's just that the ball is not perfect there. So once again, I do like seeing him not outside on the boundary, on the line of scrimmage, isolated, asked to win one-on-one against these cornerbacks, because while he is a physical specimen in the sense of his height and weight, and he does have the potential to get better against the press coverage itself, he just does not, once again, have that vertical speed to really separate deep. On this rep, we're going to have a mixture of good and bad. Keon Coleman's lined up here. They're going to can, which is changing from the first play called to the second play called in the huddle. So Keon Coleman's going to spot up right here. You're going to get here. You're going to get some vertical routes by these guys, and then you're going to get James Cook heading into the flat. As far as the Patriots, they're going to be in cover 3, but this side is going to act in man coverage. They're going to match, in other words. But you're going to get this cornerback and this linebacker hanging on in between, and then you're going to have your deep center field safety. So he is going to find a soft spot in the zone. Now, he's going to catch the football as well, but as he turns upfield, he's going to get the ball punched out. So ball security, once again, we've seen a couple drops so far, and we've seen now a fumble. Now, it was a good fumble caused by Spillane, so I want to credit him as well. But once again, you have to hang on to the football here. And so once again, I like the attention to detail. Like I said, he's a really smart player. So what he's going to do is purposefully spot up right behind this guy's back, which is going to create the opening once this wide receiver heads to the flat. So he knows exactly what he's doing, and he runs this purposefully just like this too. He knows exactly what he's doing. Spots up. I do wish Allen was, a tick faster in getting this ball out, but at the same time, he does have to ensure that this cornerback isn't going to hang underneath and then come and pick this off, because it's a pick 6 if that happens. So I understand at the same time. But once again, you got to hang on to the football. No excuses. And so fumble. And here, Keon Coleman's at the top on the line of scrimmage. This is another rep where now I want to be fair to him at the same time. This is against AJ Terrell, a very good cornerback. But once again, the deep speed, there's just no separation at all. Now it's going to be a back shoulder fade. So I understand that it's just, once again, there's just really no threat of he shouldn't be worried at all about getting beat deep. You're going to get Singletary spotting up here. You're going to get an out route right here. You're going to get a little juke route where he stops and then continues, and then you're going to get a vertical route down here. As far as the Falcons are concerned, they're going to be in a cloud cover 3, so you're going to have this safety and a deep third. You're going to have a deep third here, and then they are acting in man coverage in match on this side, but technically Terrell would be the deep third on this side of the field, also with your zone coverage over the middle here. Once again, this is against AJ Terrell, but another thing is a lot of times the boundary cornerbacks are some of the best cornerbacks in the league, so you're going to be running up against the best defenders in terms of the cornerbacks that you're playing a good majority of the time. So if you're being played out here, you either have what it takes to beat some of these elite cornerbacks or you just don't, in my opinion. And so once again, there's just really no threat at all. AJ Terrell isn't going to get beaten deep. Now, the point is to set up the back shoulder, so I understand that as well. But just he's all over it. There's no room. He smothers it, and it's just not gonna happen. And here we have another rep versus Terrell. So he's going to try to spot up right here as a quick outlet to Josh Allen. You're going to get a sail on this side. You're going to get double ins as well. As far as the Falcons, they're once again going to be in a cover 3. And so you're going to have a robber here. You're going to have your deep middle field safety here. You're going to have your flat, your deep third. Terrell's going to match, so he's going to press. So technically, he would be a deep third, but he's going to act in man coverage. You're going to get a blitzing linebacker here. The whole line blitzes, and then you have your hook zone right here. Once again, this is an example of him just not being able to win against press coverage. Once again, I understand AJ Terrell is a very, very, very good cornerback, but you're going to be facing these guys, like I said. So he's going to get absolutely mauled. There is no separation. He gets hung up and is unable to come back to this football, and he's lucky this isn't intercepted too. So once again, very physical. I know you could argue some potential holding at the top of the route. I get that too, but you're going to get that at the same time, and it's not going to be called a lot of the time as well. And it is arguably within about maybe slightly more than 5 yards. But so once again, just another example of him not really being able to win against physical press man coverage. And as the X receiver in this offense, you need to be able to do that pretty consistently. And here we have another rep of him really being unable to create much separation, and it's another back shoulder. I get it, but it's completely clamped the entire time. You're going to get a deep dig. You're going to get a little juke route again from him. You're going to get an out route as well from him. As far as the Dolphins, they're going to be in cover 1 man. And so you're going to have man coverage throughout here. And then you're going to have this guy who's going to initially be what I believe to be a QB spy, and he's just going to eventually come down on the blitz as well. Like I said, it's just absolutely clamped. And another example of just no separation, being forced to the sideline, kind of bullied in my opinion. Yeah, just not a particularly great rep. And once again, I just think it's that how they're using him. It's not working. So I understand they don't have anybody else that can do this either. But I really think they should have invested in an X wide receiver. And then they could potentially do a lot more with Keon Coleman and make him much, much, much more productive. And on this rep, we have another example of him struggling to separate deep. So what you're going to get is a little hitch from Diggs. You're going to get a flat on this side. You're going to get a vertical route by the tight end, and then you're going to get an out and up by Keon Coleman. It's going to be against cover 1 man. So you're going to have man coverage throughout with a deep center field safety. And then this edge player is going to run into a little zone, and then this linebacker is going to have James Cook. And so on this play, just pay attention once again. It's just the lack of deep speed. I mean, he does a pretty good job of selling the route as a flat. I mean, it's the route running itself is fine in my opinion. It's just really he's just not going to separate. And then but one thing I do want to mention, and I do like about this route, is if you pay attention right here, he is trying to press inwards so that there is space between him and the sideline for Josh Allen to fit this ball into. Unfortunately, he's just, once again, not really going to be able to separate. So really everything about the route running is fine, in my opinion. He does a pretty good job of selling the flat, heading upfield. It's just, once again, there's just not going to be any semblance of separation here. And I want to end on a positive note. So here we're going to get a win from Keon Coleman on a 9 route. You're going to get the tight end working over the middle of the field. You're going to get a seam up here from Shakir. You're going to get a curl at the bottom. And then Cook is going to work on an option to the right. As far as the Miami Dolphins, they're going to be in quarters or cover 4 coverage. This cornerback will be acting in match or man coverage, but he's technically, a 4th quarter defender. Then you're going to have your zones over here and your hook zone over the middle. So he's essentially going to get one-on-one coverage with Keon Coleman because the tight end is going to take away this safety from being able to get back there to assist the corner. I like the physicality here. He does win initially off the line, so I like that. He gets a little burst of steam. It's a jump ball from Josh Allen, which, hey, 6'2", 6'3" receiver Keon Coleman makes sense. He can do that. A little bit of a late shove by Keon Coleman right here. If you notice the separation it creates, good job by him. Physicality not called. Able to get himself into the end zone. So a solid rep from Keon Coleman here. It's not that, he can't win deep at all ever. It's just that this part of his game, it's just, he doesn't do it as consistently as I would like. And it's just, I really wish that they would work him in the slot a little bit more, but I understand they saw a big-bodied receiver, jump ball ability, and they said, we'll make him our vertical X wide receiver in this offense. And what you're going to get is when he's matched up against, in my opinion, above average and especially up to elite cornerbacks, they're going to shut him down basically every single time. He's going to be able to win every now and then because he is extremely physical. And he does have, in my opinion, better hands than the contested catch percentage from PFF shows. I think that in general, he's a fine enough contested catch guy, down the field especially. But I just think that they're limiting him by deploying him in this role because we see time and time again that there's just really not very much separation created naturally, at least. And if he is going to do it, it's going to have to be, for the most part, through physicality at the end of the route, which isn't ideal for the deployment as an X receiver vertically down the field. And we did see some struggles against press coverage as well. Now, I want to say that there's definitely time for him to improve at his craft in this position. I've already seen improvements against press coverage from him. I didn't see a dominant win like that, like I showed you a couple clips ago. In his rookie season against press coverage, it was smooth. So if he can consistently do that more often, Josh Allen can kind of get the ball placement right on some of these jump balls, and Keon Coleman can come down with them. There's definitely the potential for him to produce more for us in fantasy football and for his own team in real life and NFL football, right? And I definitely don't want to give up on anybody. And I want to, over and above all, I just want to mention that I really think he has the potential to become a much better player. I really wish, once again, they would deploy him a little bit differently, more slot usage, maybe 30 to 40% of his time in the slot, because just having him isolated one-on-one running deep routes without the long speed is just not going to lead to him having nearly the success rates that a lot of these other vertical X wide receivers are going to have at the NFL level. But where do you agree? Where do you disagree? Let me know below in the comments section. If you would be so inclined, if you would subscribe to my Patreon, I would really appreciate it because I do these film breakdowns. I'm unable to collect any revenue. If you do not wish to or cannot afford to, if you could just like the video, subscribe, leave a comment below, it would really, I would really appreciate it. So yeah, without further ado, thank you and have a good day.